Hi, Russell.
Hey, Peter.
Now, Russell, when you look at something like this and in regard to brand damage, this is something that the people in your industry know more than anything else. What's the first direct impact on a business that occurs if the brand has been damaged in a detrimental manner?
Well, I mean, what we would consider to be brand damage, of course, is a decline in the perceived value of the brand, which results in a decline in sales and a decline in the margin that you're able to get for the brand. And I'm not sure that, I mean, in either case that you've cited, I think what was really interesting about Qantas, for example, I think that they actually handled that extremely well. When you consider that they literally put the planes on the ground and would not put them back up in the air until they knew that they had total safety. They put the CEO right in front of the camera, made him the spokesman. I'm not entirely sure.
But do you think, is there a difference there, though, between a public relations exercise, which is what you're complimenting Qantas on doing,
yes.
But to those of us who are a little bit perturbed or a little bit disturbed sometimes about flying,
yes.
knowing that one of their planes could fall out of the sky,
yeah.
or if that's the impression it could give, surely that must have an impact on the brand.
Okay, so yes, if we're saying the brand equals the image, then we now have a different set of images in our head, don't we, when it comes to Qantas?
Sure.
And those images that we have in our head are, of course, on the news, and we see a damaged engine. Although I think that they did it. You're right. You are right. I was complimenting their public relations exercise. They did do a very good job at making it clear that the engine manufacturer, I think it was Rolls, the engine manufacturer obviously was involved in this, and ultimately, airline brands don't build the planes. I know their brand is on the side of the planes, but they don't build them.
So I guess that's a bit of a classic example of taking advantage of something in a sense that started out detrimental and could have been turned into a positive in the manner that they handled it.
Well, I don't know that they enhanced their brand as a result of how they handled it, but I think that they minimised damage. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe that's splitting hairs.
No, I understand what you're saying. Well, then let's go look at another example, say like one of the banks with the Commonwealth Bank,
right,
with the interest rise rates and the manner in which they handle that sort of type of thing.
Yes.
Is there a difference there when you can get sort of like a bank as being an industry, and the banks are on the nose, let's be honest, as an industry? In that sense, then, are you doing just more damage to the industry than what you are to the individual bank?
You know what? That could be right, Peter. I think that, as you say, the industry gets a lot of bad press, doesn't it? Excuse me, apologies for that. They get a lot of bad press, and of course the media and the politicians love having a crack at the banks. They are, front and centre when it comes to negative publicity, and it's all of course because of profitability and because of fees and the money that they make. It is really interesting though, isn't it? I mean, if I was working with the banks or on behalf of the banking industry, we know that we now have, 4 of the top 11 banks in the world in terms of their wealth. And yes, they make a lot of money, they're highly profitable, but that's got a lot to do with the fact that Australia wasn't quite as damaged during the GFC.
So as a result, they've got away with it. Just go back to Linen House now,
yeah,
with what you know of what's occurred this week.
Yeah.
Who's the one that suffers the most here? Has Nick Riewoldt suffered the most here, or has someone like Linen House or the St Kilda Football Club, who are associated with Nick Riewoldt, have they suffered more?
Well, you would think that the individual has, wouldn't you? I think, I think these days we're living in a completely different media world, aren't we? The whole idea that privacy is out of date. The biggest story in the last few months is, of course, the WikiLeaks story and Julian Assange. And I think that the punter now knows, all of us now know, there's no such thing as a secret.
Yeah.
So I think that we are very, very, very forgiving of things like this, because we all know that could actually be any of us, or maybe if it's not us individually, it could be our child, or could be a friend, or an acquaintance, or a cousin, or whatever. I mean, we've all done silly things, and we now know that you can do silly things and it can finish up in a very public place. This is the new world that we're now in.
And I think it's going to continue, isn't it? Especially when you see the strength of social media like it is. Russell, we do have to go, but we do appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
Right, Peter, thank you.
Russell Howcroft there. He's the CEO of George Patterson Y and R, and also panel member of ABC TV's great program, great series Gruen Transfer. Gordon Duncan is chairman of Linen House, and he's on the line. He joins us now. Hi, Gordon.
Hi, Peter. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. This has been reported that your company is considering its involvement with both the St Kilda Club and Nick Riewoldt. Is that correct?
No, absolutely incorrect. That was wrongly reported by the ABC this morning. We contacted them and they have retracted it, and we're fully in support of St Kilda and of Nick Riewoldt.
When you see what's occurred this week and you see the manner in which Nick Riewoldt has conducted himself at that press conference, do you think that in a way sort of not only enhances Nick Riewoldt's reputation but also enhances and your reputation and the fact that you now are associated with him as well?
Oh, completely. I mean, Nick's a wonderful boy. Never done anything wrong in our eyes, and I thought he held himself very, very well at the press conference, and it just makes us more proud to be associated with both him and St Kilda.
Gordon, we do appreciate you calling us in and to correct that misconception that you were in some way unhappy with Nick Riewoldt and also the St Kilda Football Club.
Well, good on you, Peter. Thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure. Gordon Duncan, the chairman of Linen House.